Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes. After the meditation we have Dhamma talk. Right now, Reverend Kshanti is going to lead the loving kindness meditation.
All right. Will you all relax? Get comfortable. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. May I be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always find fulfillment. May I also have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May my teachers, my parents, my siblings, my friends and relatives, may they be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always find fulfillment. May they also have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May those I meet in my regular life, may they be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always find fulfillment. May they also have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May those I have difficulties with, who may wish me harm, may they be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them, may no difficulties come to them, may no problems come to them. May they always find fulfillment. May they also have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May all beings arisen in these realms, either with form or without, with sensation or without, with perception or without, with consciousness or without. May they be well and happy, peaceful and free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they also find fulfillment. May they have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. Now continue these thoughts of metta until you hear the sound of the bell. Sadhu.
Thank you, Reverend Kshanti, leading the loving kindness meditation. Right now, time for the Dhamma talk. Our speaker today, Reverend Kusala, so you can start your Dhamma talk right now.
A new month, March 1st. Spring is almost here. It's going to follow summer this year. So I'm going to talk about something that's important to Reverend Kshanti. The 4 fears of aging and death. And I feel the same way. And how this talk all came about was I have a Facebook friend named Ed. And Ed lives in Canada. So he can't be all bad. And he is reissuing an updated version of a book called Death and Dying in Buddhism, coming out this month, as a matter of fact. And he contacted me and said, would you read the book and just write a paragraph or 2 about what you think, so I can use that in my promotion of the book. And I said, sure, And it wasn't a very long book, and it was written very well. And I read the book, and I came up with like 5 paragraphs. And I told Ed, you can use as much of this as you want, or as little as you want. It's okay. And then he sent me a picture of the cover of the book, and it said, Forward by Kusala Bhikshu. So he took everything he wrote and made the foreword to the book. And I thought, what a wonderful thing to have happen. That he was inspired enough by what I wrote to think it would help his book and clarify some of the points of the book. I started off with, this is not a textbook. This is a reminder. And I thought that was a nice way to start, because, you don't want to read a textbook about death and dying and the fear and all that kind of stuff. That's for advanced class in psychology. But this is just an everyday version of what we need to be aware of and what we need to expect. And in reading the book, I found something that I hadn't seen before. And it was called The 4 Fears of Death. And I thought, well, that's fascinating. And as it turns out, it's not an official list in Buddhist literature. We have the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and the 7 Factors of Enlightenment. It's not one of those. It's these 4 fears that you find throughout Buddhist texts. And so he put them all together and as a list in the book and talked a little bit about each one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each one today. And that might help you as you start to age and feel a bit uncomfortable with how life is treating you. So, what is the first fear in aging and death? It is the fear of losing your sense stores. Now, you might say to yourself, but how many sense stores do Buddhists have? Because physically, we have 5 sense stores. That's generally how it's presented. But Buddhism, we have 6. We consider the mind a sense store. So the mind and thinking, the eye and seeing, the ear and hearing. And if you look at the sense stores, you realize when you're young, they're very attuned to everything that's happening. They're your connection to the world. That if none of your sense stores work, you just live in a void. So we have all these sense stores going out, getting information, when you're young, it's not information, it's just stimulus. But as you get older, it turns out to be information. And speaking of that, one digression, I posted a Facebook post today of a little cartoon, a man and a woman. And the woman is sort of fallen back over the couch, and the man is reading a newspaper. And she says, "I'm so tired of all the information." Yeah, we're in an information society. All we get every day is tons and tons of information. Some of it useful, most of it not. So we have these sense doors, and they're accepting all this information. And then the sense door of the mind is thinking about it. So the mind thinks about what we're seeing, the mind thinks about what we're hearing. And you go, okay, yeah. And as we get older, they get dull, and we have a guy here, you all know him, his name is Doug, and Doug can't hear very well, and we all end up yelling at him. Not because we don't like him, just because he can't hear us. And I said one day, Doug, don't you get tired of everybody yelling at you? Wouldn't you want a hearing aid? He says, I have one. He just doesn't use it. And it's like a person who needs glasses and doesn't wear them, and you just go, okay, so as we get older, as we age, we have the availability of workarounds. So if you can't hear as well, you can get a hearing aid. And if you can't think as well, you get Prevagen. And if you can't see as well, you get those glasses. And if you can't taste as well, you're sort of stuck, but you might lose a little weight too. And so, you go, okay. Now what fear do I have in losing my sense doors, the energy of my sense doors? That I will become more and more disconnected from the world around me. And I'll end up sort of alone. I was telling John today, I said, sometimes if you're not ready to go out that door and meet Los Angeles, it's a little people-y out there, and they're all going someplace and all doing something and all driving and da-da-da, and you just go, wow, there's so much going on, And as our sense doors weaken, there's less and less going on, and it becomes more internal rather than external. And I know people have bucket lists, but at some point, you don't even want to get on a plane anymore, or even go to the store. What do you do for excitement? Well, I have errands. Okay, that'll keep you busy, And it's just like, wow. So we fear the loss of connection. We fear our senses getting dull and leaving us alone. The second fear is pain. We fear pain. And I've heard some people say, I don't mind dying, I just don't want to suffer. How can I do that? And when I was a chaplain at UCLA Medical Center, the chaplains were looked as the people that would go in and reduce the suffering. And the medical doctors were the people that would go in and reduce the pain. So what we have is this dichotomy. We have suffering and pain. And oftentimes we suffer more when we label the very strong sensation pain. Now, years ago, when I started to meditate, there was a lot of pain. And one of my teachers said to me, there's a way you can sort of neutralize some of the pain. Not all of it, but some of it. Instead of calling that sensation pain, just call it a sensation. Because the word pain triggers something in our head. And in a bigger context, when we have pain, it means we will die if we don't take care of the pain. Now, logically, we would say, well, that's foolish. But there is a place in our consciousness, our subconsciousness, when we have pain, it triggers our survival mechanism, that we need to change something really quickly or we're going to lose our life. And during retreats at some time, I would think of, as my leg fell asleep and then started to hurt and the hurt didn't go away, I'm thinking to myself, what a way to end this retreat. Calling 911, the ambulance comes to the front door, I'm taken off to the hospital, but they saved my life. It was close, but they saved my life. And I thought, wow, this is just so trippy inside your head, So what I would do when the pain started to happen in my body, I would just call it sensation. Okay, my left leg has a really strong sensation. Now my right elbow has a really strong sensation. And these sensations just go all around my body. One time the sensation would seem to go away, and I would do a sigh of relief. But then it would end up someplace else. Just to alert me, don't get too comfortable, because I'm still here. Now, I did a 5,000-mile motorcycle trip. I went to Wisconsin and back. It took me 21 days total. And I don't know if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, but it's exciting. It's a challenge. And it can be very painful because you're sitting on that seat for hours and hours and hours. And you can't move around like in a car. You can't change your position very much. And then, about halfway to the next destination, all of a sudden, your bladder signals you. You've got to pull over because you have to go to the bathroom. And then you think to yourself, well, it's only another 40 miles to the next rest stop. I can do it. And then that little sensation goes away. And then about 10 minutes later, the little sensation comes back. Even harder. And says, you better pull over because you're going to have an accident if you don't. And then you think to yourself, well, I can make it. Now it's only 15 miles. I'm almost there. And thankfully, most of the time it worked out. But it just allowed me to see my body in a much different way, because it kept sending signals to me of what I need to do to keep it comfortable and to keep it healthy. And I just posted something else today on my Facebook page. Some people said, you need to pay more attention to your body. And the body says, you're old and you want pizza. And ain't that the way it works? So I don't know if paying attention to your body sensations is going to lead you in a healthy direction, but it will take care of some of the pain and suffering you're feeling. Okay, number 3, the death of the ego. Man, this is a tough one. Because the ego's primary and only job is to identify us and keep us alive. And it can be really good and really selfish, and it's a terrible master, but it's a great servant. And so when we look at the death of the ego, I thought to myself when I first read that, well, what part of me knows it's alive, and what part of me knows it's going to die? And then I asked my thumb, do you know that you're alive? And I listened carefully, and it didn't say anything. Thumb, do you know you have to die? I listened carefully again. Didn't say anything. So I realized the body doesn't even know it's alive. And the body doesn't know it's going to die. And isn't the body lucky in certain circumstances not to have that information? It's just living in the present moment. It just does what it does. And there's no fear of the future. There's no regret of the past. It's just here now. It's our anchor. Somebody said, what's the best way to get to the present moment experience of your life? I said, just pinch yourself. Just like that. Because that pinch can only happen now. And it brings you back to that present moment experience. And most of our fear and suffering comes from past and future. Unless we're sitting in a burning house. Then we got to change the present moment really quickly. But other than that, it's pretty comfortable in the present moment. But not in the past and the future. So when the ego dies, you die. Not the body death, it's an ego death. You know? And some people say, well, you know, the afterlife is available to us. And does the ego go to the afterlife? According to Buddhism, it doesn't. What goes to the afterlife is our karma. And I thought to myself, as the mind and consciousness starts to break apart and fall away, the idea of time also gets disrupted. And can you imagine having your last thought as it being a really good thought? And that would last an eternity, because there'd be no time and place. Now, could that be heaven? I don't know. But in Buddhism, we say that it's best to have a good last thought, because that will be the first thought of your next lifetime. So we need to practice on having a good last thought. And there are Buddhist traditions that practice that. Amitabha Buddha, Vietnamese tradition. Their main practice is chanting Amitabha Buddha. And they do it in a religious way, and they do it in a daily secular way. And what I'm thinking is that they want Amitabha Buddha to be the last thought that they're going to have. And if that's the case, with faith, vow, and devotion, it is said that Amitabha Buddha will come down and escort you to his heaven realm, which is the best heaven realm a Buddhist could go to, because everything speaks the Dharma. The little birds are chirping the Dharma. The little flowers are flowering the Dharma. And you're guaranteed to achieve nirvana if you make it to Pure Land. But the only way you're going to make it to Pure Land is have that last thought be Amitabha Buddha. Now the fourth one is really relevant to Buddhists. The fourth fear that we deal with is karma. And you might not think karma is going to be a big fear in aging and death. But as you age, you will find that your mind suddenly remembers 20 years ago better than yesterday. I don't know why, you know? And it's clear, and you see all the things you did, and you see all the things you shouldn't have done, and all the things you could have done. And then you think about the karmic consequences of all of that. The Buddha said, when I became enlightened, it ended my karma. But it didn't end the consequences to my karma. So those follow us to the next lifetime. And that may be the reason some people are born in Palos Verdes and some people are born in South Central. You never know. It's a very complicated thing, this afterlife. But we need to think about all the good stuff we did, all the good karma that we produced, all the pleasant and happy consequences that good karma produced. And that way we do not have the fear of all the bad consequences of all the stupid stuff we ever did over the 50, 60, or 70 years. And as you think about it and reflect, you know today that you wouldn't have done that. You're either wiser or smarter or have more experience. But when you're 19, for instance, you're just getting your feet wet. You're just starting to figure out what the hell everything means and your place in that. And you might make some bad choices based on some information that wasn't necessarily useful in the situation. And it goes on and on and on. And you can have all the good things that you've ever done bypassed with the 3 bad things that you did. And those stick out in your memory. And I have found a good way to deal with that is to have a memorial service. So think of yourself at 19. Say, for instance, you're 70. So that 19-year-old died a long time ago. His memory still lives on, but he's gone. So you need to have a memorial service for that 19-year-old. You need to recognize the fact that he or she did the best they could. And they failed sometimes and they succeeded sometimes. And now you're going to let them go because they're of no use to you any longer. You need to be 70 now. You need to be here now, as Ram Dass might say. So there may be a lot of future memorial services in your life based on who you were. And we weren't that person very long. The memory's there. It seems to be very, very structured, but we were just there for a moment. In the same way, you can be a variety of people in Sunday, March 1st, today. You had the morning person wake up who couldn't find the right side of bed, and then they went out, had an Egg McMuffin, life was good again. And then they got into the traffic, and life was bad again. And all this vacillation between good and bad, happy and sad, happens every day in our life. And there's part of us that arises and accepts the challenge. Usually we aren't challenged very much about the good stuff, but the bad stuff, yeah. That can be a big challenge. And right now, we're faced with a lot of bad stuff in the world. It's a very confusing time. There doesn't seem to be much right or wrong coming out of what's happening. It seems to be more chaos than anything else. And for me, being an old guy, this reminds me of the 60s. We had the Vietnam War, we had the 68 convention in Chicago, we had all sorts of stuff going on. And being a young lad like I was, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I would just go to work, come back, have a beer, watch TV, go to work. It didn't really affect me. But as you get older, and because we're in the information age, we have access to a lot of stuff we didn't have in the 60s. So the 60s would have been a lot different if we had the internet. And now, here we are, and everybody knows everything. They don't know what to do about it, but everybody knows everything. So sometimes, if you're feeling a little challenged and down and out and a little depressed because the world seems to be going to hell, what you can do is you can come to the present moment experience of your life and walk out the front door and say you see some trash in the street, and you pick up the trash and find a trash container and put it in the container. You're making a positive difference in the world, in your world, because in that world, we don't exist. We just get the information. And so we can start small. We don't need to do a lot to make the world a better place. You might smile at somebody, help somebody across the street, see a dog and pet the dog. Just this little stuff brings us back to the present moment experience of our life. And it tells us that there is always going to be positive and negative, good and bad. And it's our choice. And as I was talking earlier, I mentioned that, we're really lucky to be Buddhists because we're not surprised when the world is filled with suffering. What that should do is inspire us to end our suffering, to take the path, to use it every day, to come to a place in your own life where you no longer suffer and you can be of great use to everybody that is. I'm going to stop there. I think I've said what needs to be said today. Does anybody have comments or questions about what I said? Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Venerable, for the talk. The poet Dante, he said one time that there is no greater misery than to recall happiness in times of sorrow. So when you look back on your life, is that like a lack of mindfulness because we're not grounded in the present moment?
Well, it could be a lack of mindfulness, but it's sort of what we do all the time. That's why we're always encouraged to be mindful. Because the mind itself doesn't like the present moment. What it does like, it likes to think about what it did and what's going to happen. And if you look at all the entertainment that we have access to, Prime, Netflix, it's all about the stories. So our mind likes the stories. And that's why it's good to have a meditation practice when you can sit down and let the stories go for a while. Not forever, because those stories are who you are. And you should honor those stories. But they're not who you are now. They are who you used to be and who you might be in the future. But now is the place to be. So, can anybody always stay in the present moment? It's very rare. It's really hard because there's so many things we need to access from the past. License number, telephone number. Every time I go to Vaughn's now, they want my phone number. Now I got to remember what my phone number is. And I just made up a phone number. But I have to remember the phone number that I made up so I could put it in this little machine so I could get my discount. And I'm thinking, I said, okay, so I made it up. I can't let it go. It needs to be part of who I am, and I need to have access to it when necessary. And that has nothing to do with the present moment unless it's the present moment that needs the access and the number. Okay. But is that being mindful? Or is that just having a memory? Because being mindful is like, okay, what's happening right now? How do my feet feel on the ground? How do my lungs feel as I inhale and exhale? What's the sensation at the tip of my nose as the air goes out and comes in? That kind of stuff. And that does bring us to the present moment, but it's not very useful in remembering your zip code. So Ram Dass had the best line. He said, in the spiritual journey, there's lights, and there's colors, and there's wonderment. But even with all that, don't forget your zip code. So we need to be rooted in who we are, but we also need to understand that who we are is a combination of factors that have come together in this present moment to define us. I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's what came to my head. Thanks for the question. Okay. Yeah. Steve.
The Four Noble Truths talk about life, acknowledging that we're here to suffer. That's a reality you really can't avoid.
I can't hear you, Steve.
I'm having trouble projecting as I get older.
I understand that the whole talk was about that.
Right. The Four Noble Truths, talk about life being suffering.
Right.
And acknowledges that.
Right.
And the Eightfold Path is a way to navigate that suffering and realities that you come up with.
Right.
Is the Eightfold Path a way of being in the present moment and enjoying that as much as you can?
I don't know. I've never thought about it in that way. The Four Noble Truths are, the first truth is that life is unsatisfactory. But then it goes on to say, but there's an answer to the unsatisfactoriness in the third truth. The second truth is what causes us the most suffering, and it's desire, craving, and attachment. And then the way out is the Eightfold Path. But because each path factor is separate but connected, I wouldn't say that it's a way of, yeah, that's an interesting question. After the talk, I'll go up and Google it.
Be back to me next time.
Thanks for the question. It's better to give no answer than the wrong answer, Steve. Yes, now.
Thank you for the talk today. The last one you talked about, you're lucky to be the Buddhist. I feel
Yeah.
that way. And I feel very lucky I'm a Buddhist. But to be a real Buddhist, you have to understand about Buddhism, not this kind of Buddhist is more religious thing than the real Buddhism.
Well, now I'm going to stop you right there, and I want you to tell me what real Buddhism is. Is it the Mahayana? Is it the Theravada? Is it the Vajrayana? Is it Zen? Is it only found in China? Is it only found in Vietnam? Can we find it here in America? What is the real Buddhism?
For me, I know when I grew up with that culture,
Right.
and I know most the Buddhism I grew up with, more religious, that means more faith.
Okay.
Religion, they just believe in the Buddha just like God.
Okay.
Just pray and pray. Sometimes they make like some spiritual come in and in front of the Buddha statue.
I understand.
All kind of like that. And
So do you consider that the real Buddhism?
people, they like that way, and they keep following that one,
And was that the real Buddhism?
yeah.
Yeah, it was the real Buddhism.
This was not, but
Because if it's real Buddhism, it ends suffering. No matter what you do and call it Buddhism, it ends suffering. So if you're practicing chanting all day, or meditating all day, or having devotion to a Buddha statue, and you find that your suffering is diminishing and going away, that's the real Buddhism. We have labels for everything. We like to put things in a box, and we say that's a good Buddhist and that's a bad Buddhist. What does that mean? You know, or that's the real Buddhism and that's the fake Buddhism. What does that mean? You know, when you go out on the circuit and start talking to people about Buddhism, everybody has their own idea of what Buddhism is in their life. And can I say that's not the real Buddhism? Can I say, are you suffering less because of that Buddhism? And if they say yes, that's the real Buddhism. So thank you for that question, or that statement, because the word real gets in the way of a lot of people's idea of what Buddhism is and what the end result is supposed to be.
a lot of people I know when they watch the Chinese movie, and they see a lot of things like Chinese Kung Fu,
Mhm.
come from Shaolin, and they think, oh, the monk fighting very good. And
Bodhidharma.
he talked about compassion, but why look at the monk go fighting all over and killing a lot of people?
But now that's the joy of this religion. It's filled with paradox. two things coming together that shouldn't, and works out and ends suffering.
Yeah, I mean,
And the fighting is the end result of all the practice. And as they're practicing their kung fu, what they're doing is they're getting into the present moment experience of selflessness. They no longer fight any longer. The fighting happens all by itself. And it's not to have a winner, it's not to have a loser. And there's no anger. As soon as you're angry at your opponent, you lose. Isn't that interesting? There's a lot to be said. You know, Bodhidharma is said to have been one of the founders of Kung Fu and all that kind of stuff. And who knows? It happened so long ago, there were no records really. But this stuff is designed to take us to a place that has practice, has kindness, and it has the end result of enlightenment. And you may not see the kindness in a martial arts exhibit, but they're not doing it because they hate each other or because they're angry. They're doing it because they are expressing the form of their practice. Fascinating stuff. Thank you. Yeah.
Kusala, I want to let you know, first of all, thank you for the talk. Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance
Yes.
is featured at Barnes & Noble this month.
Wonderful.
It's on the end cap,
Okay.
so it's there. But my question is,
And did you get a copy?
I haven't yet, but I want to.
Can I warn you about that
Please.
before you do?
Yes.
It took me 4 times to read the book. And I had to be a different person each time. Because there's an awful lot of information about Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy. And I didn't have the intellectual background to fully appreciate what was going on. But then I found another book, Guide to the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, written by 2 doctors. And they filled in all the gaps. And then I bought the audiobook. And one time I was going from Southern California to Northern California. I put it in my CD player when cars had CD players and got a chance to listen to it for a 5th time. And it started to really awaken some stuff in me. One of the best books I've ever written. It had to go to 21 different publishers before it was published. Nobody wanted to publish it. They thought it wouldn't work, it wouldn't sell. Bestseller now since the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Please, question.
So my question is, I find it's interesting to me that we spend so much time trying to have non-attachment, separate from the world, right? And it seems like the dimming of the sense doors starts that process automatically for everybody. My question is, for you, when you think about your practice 30 years ago, with sense doors where they were then, and your sense doors today, are your conditions today more conducive to your practice with dimmer sense doors?
Yes. Is your senility help you in your meditation practice?
That's the question.
That's the question. Yeah, no, you know what I've come to understand, and this may make sense to you, may not. I was complaining the other day, maybe last month, about how complicated the world's getting. It's just, your computer is updated now 2 or 3 times a month. You got your antivirus, that's updated 10 times a month. You got to do this. Everybody wants to talk to you online. Your bank wants to talk to you. And I'm just going, man, it's getting so complicated. And then I realized, no, it's not. The problem with you, Kusala, is you're getting simplified. You're coming to a place where all that stuff isn't important anymore. And you'd rather not even have it in your life. You'd rather go out and look at a tree for a while. Or a squirrel get chased by the cats. Never catch them, but the squirrel is tricky. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's what I really enjoy now. When I was younger, I wanted to know about everything. In depth. Why? And now, now it's like, who the hell cares? And I look at the current state of the world, and everybody's, How's it going to turn out? Well, a lot of us aren't going to be here when it turns out. So just relax. Enjoy that ice cream today because you're still here. And there's nothing you can do about the other stuff anyway, except cram it into your head and forget half of it. You know, so yes, there is a big difference, but it wasn't premeditated, and it surprised me that it's far less complicated now, but because of me, which drives all the people trying to sell me apps crazy. Don't you want to know? Don't you want that discount? No, I don't care. No. Thanks for the question. Yeah. Okay. I see some smiles on people's faces. Good. And I will turn it over to the end of the ceremony.
Thank you. We will chant page 4 and page 10. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dhamma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha, the way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. Thank you again for everybody, and I think we have tea and cookies. Couple of announcements. Next Sunday, the bath I believe March 8. Sai Mahajan is going to be here, he's going to be on the Dhamma. Please come and join. Then after that, third Sunday, which is March 15, Samath Vihar is going to give a Dhamma talk because he was in Sri Lanka, in my temple, 2 weeks almost. And he's coming and he say, oh, Bhante, I was in your temple, nice, everybody, so happy, he say he's going back again to the Europe, he have time a little bit, he say he can come and give a talk here. I say, how about 15? Yes, Bhante, okay, I'll come and give the talk 15. So make sure the March 15, Sanath Vihar is coming, Mexican American monks we call, and 8 of the March, Sai is going to give Dhamma talk. So that's the only right now the announcement. Thank you again for being with us here. One more announcement. Around the Vesak time, which is the May, I believe May, full moon day, around that time. So we're going to give a baptism ceremony for the people who were like to officially become a Buddhist. So we are planning around the full moon day of the May time, which is very important for the Buddhist people. So if you are interested, please come and talk to the monks here. You can talk to me or to talk to Ratana or even Mr. Nam, you can talk to. So far, I think we have 2 or 3 people, and so we'll see how many people is coming. We're going to do the Vesak Dhamma ceremony also in Vesak time. It's 2 months late almost, March, April, May. So please keep in your mind first. I'm not sure what Sunday is coming then. Whatever the full moon, close to full moon of the May, we're going to do that ceremony also. That's the announcement. Again, thank you for everything, for everybody, and be well and happy. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, you all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.